This is IoT Chapter 1. In this chapter we're going to be learning about ratios, problem solvings involving ratios, direct proportion, inverse proportion and currency conversion. Now a ratio allows us to compare quantities. Now let's say for every 2 tomatoes that I use, I will be using 1 potato in my recipe. Now if the recipe was asking me to use 4 potatoes, how many tomatoes would I be using? Now how do you get from 1 to 4? You multiply it by 4. How do you go from 2 to the next number? We do the exact same thing that we did to one side. So we times it by 4. And that's going to give us 8. So we're going to be using 8 tomatoes. Now a ratio should be given in its simplest form. Now if the initial question has any units in it, we have to convert the units into the exact same. So if we're dealing with pounds and pennies, we convert them both into either pounds or pennies, whichever's simpler. And dealing with whole numbers when you're dealing with ratios is a lot easier than decimal numbers. So we can turn the decimal numbers into whole numbers. Now let's try the first question. Now they're asking us to simplify each of these ratios. Now what we need to do here, we need to find common numbers that we can divide the two numbers by. So 24 and 30, we can divide them both by 6. So we're going to do 30 divided by 6, and we're going to do 24 divided by 6. And that's going to give us 4:5. Now here we have liters and we have centimeter cube. Now we need to know our unit conversion factors for this. We know that 1 milliliter is the same as 1 cubic centimeter. So if 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters, 1 liter should be 1,000 cubic centimeters. Now whatever's the same on both sides, you can cancel it out. So if I have the same units, the units will cancel out. Now we're dealing with 1,000 and 800. Now we can see that there's multiple zeros here. So we can cancel out the zeros. So cancelling out the zeros means essentially you're dividing it by 10. So you're going to be dividing both sides by 10. So if I divide 1,000 by 10, it becomes 100. So whatever you do to one side, you do it to the other side. So we're going to divide it by 10. You get 80. And these two zeros cancel out as well, because you're dividing both sides by 10 again. So we have 10:8. We can divide them both by 2. So we're going to get 5:4. Now for question D, you need to know beforehand that 5 miles equals to 8 kilometers. And then you can proceed with the question. And then we have meters and millimeters. Now it's simpler to convert them both into centimeters. We're essentially changing both units, but it will be simpler to turn it into centimeters. Now meters into centimeters, what do? We times it by 100. So we're going to get 150 centimeters ratio. Now millimeters into centimeters, you divide it by 10. So we're going to get 5 centimeters. Now the units cancel out, and we're going to divide both sides by the same number. The highest common factor here I can see is 5. So we're going to divide them both by 5, and we're going to get 30:1. Question number 2. Write each ratio in the form of 1:n. Now 1:n, it means the first ratio has to be 1. N, it could be whatever because it's a variable. So it doesn't matter. It could be a whole number, a fraction, or a decimal number. It does not matter. But the first ratio has to be 1. So, question A. How do you turn 3 into 1? To turn anything into 1, you divide it by itself. So we're going to divide the 3 by 3, and you're going to divide the 12 by the exact same number. So we're going to get 1:4. Question number 3. In a school there are 36 teachers and 450 students. Write down the teacher-student ratio in the form of 1:n. So teachers ratio students, you got 36 ratio 450. Now they want us to write down 1 ratio n. Well, in the form of 1 ratio n. So we have to divide 36 by itself. So we're going to do 36 divided by 36. I'm going to do 450 divided by 36. And what we're going to get here is 1 ratio 12.5. So for every one teacher, we have 12.5 students. This is exercise 1.2. Now, for question 1, it says complete these ratios. Now we've got 1 ratio 2 is equivalent to 4 ratio what? Now here this 1 is changing into 4. So what did we do? We multiplied it by 4. So whatever you do to one side, you do it to the other side. So we're going to multiply this side by 4 as well. So we're going to do 2 times 4, and that's going to give us 8. Question 3. Share £20 in the ratio of 3 ratio 2 between A and B. So the first thing we're going to be doing is working out the total share. Now, £20 is going to be shared between A and B in 3 ratio 2, meaning that A will get 3 shares and B will get 2 shares respectively. So what we need to do is add the 3 and the 2 to work out the total shares. Which is 5. Now, this 5 is the total, so meaning that these ratios can be written as fractions now. So what we can do here is write down A equals to 3 over 5 multiplied by 20. And B is now 2 over 5 multiplied by 20. Divided by 5, 1. Divided by 5, 4. Divided by 5, 1. Divided by 5, 4. And we're going to get 12. We're going to get 8. Now, since we're dealing with pounds, we're going to put the units here. Now, the total of these two should be the exact same as the amount we shared, which is £20. So 12 plus 8 is 20. It means we're correct. Exercise 1.3 is direct proportionality. Now, what does it mean by directly proportional? When two things are directly proportional, as one quantity increases, the other increases as well. So for example, if you had 1 ratio 2, and if the 1 became a 4, the 2 will become an 8. So even though the quantities have increased, the ratio is still the same. It does not change. And that is direct proportionality. As one increases, the other increases as well. And the ratios are the same. Now, question 1. It says the cost of a ribbon is directly proportional to its length. A 2.5 meter piece of ribbon costs £1.35. Work out the cost of a 6 meter ribbon. So here we're dealing with the length and the cost. So we're going to be labeling each of our columns. So we have the length of the ribbon, which is in meters, and then we have the cost of the ribbon, which is in pounds. So the length of the ribbon, if it was 2.5 meters, is going to cost us £1.35. Now we need to work out the cost of a ribbon, which would be 6 meters in length. So we're going to write 6 here, and the cost, we don't know what it is. So we're going to write a variable, a letter, but most commonly what we use is x. So we're going to write x over here. So we're going to cross multiply this. So cross multiplication is used when it's directly proportional. So the ones that are joined are going to get multiplied, and they're going to go on one side of the equal sign. So 2.5 multiplied by x is 2.5x. Then an equal sign. Then we're going to have 1.35 multiplied by 6. Now to work out the value of x, we're going to take 2.5 to the other side. As there's no sign between the 2.5 and the x, it implies multiplication. So when it goes to the other side, it becomes divide. So we're going to have x equals to 1.35 multiplied by 6 over 2.5. Now once you pop this into your calculator, you should get, let's see, £3.24. Exercise 1.4 covers inverse proportion and currency conversion. Now, inverse proportion is when you're given a ratio, but as one increases, the other decreases. Now, this could be, for example, you have a project, and in this project, you're planning to build a shed. And you want to hire 4 workers who say they'll complete the work in 3 months. Now, the next day, they bring 6 people come, and they say that all 6 people will be working on the project now. Now, should it take them more time to complete the project or less time? It's going to take them less time as more people are doing work. So it's inversely proportional. Now this question here, question 1, it says it takes 12 men 3 days to cut a hedge. So here we have men, and then you have the number of days. Now it takes 12 men 3 days to cut a hedge. Now how long will it take 6 men? So what we're going to do here is not cross multiplication, but we're going to be multiplying it horizontally. So the 2 and the 12 and the 3 are going to get multiplied, and the 6 and the x are going to get multiplied. So 6 times x is 6x, and 12 times 3 is 36. X equals to 36 divided by 6. X will equal to 6. So it's going to take 6 men 6 days to complete the job. In August 2008, Eddie hired a car in Italy. The cost of hiring the car was £620. The exchange rate was £1 is equivalent to 1.25 euros. Work at the cost of hiring the car in euros. So here, we're first going to label our columns. So we're going to have pounds, ratio euros. So we've got 1 ratio 1.25. And here we have 620 ratio x. We're going to cross multiply this. And we're going to get x equals to 620 multiplied by 1.25. And this will equal to 775 euros. Aaron buys a pair of jeans in England for £65. He then goes on holiday to Canada and sees an identical pair of jeans for $75. Now the exchange rate is 1 ratio 1.55 for pounds and dollars. Now we want to work out which one's cheaper, so you can either convert the pounds into dollars or the dollars into pounds. So what I'm going to be doing is converting the pounds into dollars. So we're going to cross multiply, and x is going to equal to 65 multiplied by 1.55. So when you multiply the two, it's going to give us 100.75. So $100 and 75 cents. So now the question is also saying, in which country are the jeans cheaper and by how much? Now they are cheaper clearly in Canada, and by how much we can work that out by finding the difference between the two amounts. So we're going to do 100.75 minus 75, and that gives us 25.75 dollars. So the jeans are cheaper in Canada by $25.75. That is the end of chapter 1.